In Overland, hundreds gathered tonight to remember the lives of a couple that lived in St. Louis County. They were murdered recently in Guatemala. Their deaths come after they were reunited in Guatemala after the husband was deported by ICE last year. Community leaders in Overland shared their thoughts tonight. Rittner School District Superintendent Dr. Chris Kilbine said his heart was broken for the couple's children. Also speaking out, friends and classmates who knew and cared about the family. First Alert 4's Raya Torres was at the vigil and heard from the many who were mourning.
A community now in mourning. The city of Overland remembering their former neighbors, 43-year-old Nixon Perez Paz and 25-year-old Glendy Gonzalez de la Cruz, who were found dead in Guatemala.
And this could happen to any one of us as well.
Jerry Castillo first met Glendy at a community meeting shortly after Immigrations and Customs Enforcement arrested, then deported her husband last year.
And she was trying to organize and unite herself more with us because she was feeling very afraid and alone.
A year after her husband's deportation, Glendy decided to self-deport her family to Guatemala. Her pastor says it was a difficult decision.
To just be a single mom, but also to work on paying the bills, also while trying to keep herself and her children safe.
Weeks after they self-deported, Glendy and Nixon were found dead in a sugarcane field in Guatemala. Guatemala's National Civil Police told local news outlets that the couple was found with their mouths gagged and their hands and feet tied. Authorities found their one-year-old daughter alive near her parents' bodies, believing she was there for hours.
And I think to myself, if she would not have left, if her husband would not have been deported, she still would be here.
Everyone at the vigil held flowers, remembering the lives lost, with some also giving speeches, including Overland Mayor Marty Little, who vowed that the city will not sign an agreement with ICE, which provides local law enforcement the authority to help identify and remove illegal immigrants in their community.
And with a population that is largely growing due to immigrant families, I don't believe signing a 287G agreement provides them with any comfort or safety.
As people grieve Glendy and Nixon's death, there is now an effort to provide support for their 3 children who are still in Guatemala. If you would like to donate, we'll have a link to that on our First Alert 4 app. In Overland, Raya Torres, First Alert 4.